That skill presents compound interest. Recall from previous video that in simple interest, the interest is always calculated on the initial amount of money invested. In real life though, the concept of compound interest is of more significance. In compound interest, the interest is calculated on the new amount after the previous interest has been added to the previous initial amount. In other words, interest is calculated on the initial amount as well as on the interest accumulated. Let's take a simple example. Let's say you invest 100 Rand at 10% annual interest for a period of 3 years. And let's say this is a simple interest rate. So this is simple interest. Therefore, the future amount is going to be equal to 100 times 1 plus 10% as a decimal is 0.1 times 3, which is equal to 130 rands. 0.1 times 3 is 0.3. Add 1, you get 1.3. 1.3 times 100 is 130. I just did that all in one single step. Now, if the same money is deposited at the same rate for the same time period, but this time the rate of interest is compounded, it would mean that at the end of the first year, the future amount, let me just write that as A, is equal to 100 times 1 plus 10% is 0.1. So this is going to be 110 Rand. Now when we want to find out the amount at the end of the second year, this is no longer going to be 110 because we calculate it based on the amount for the previous year. The new amount is the previous interest plus it's been added, the previous interest has been added to the initial amount. So this is going to be 110 times 1 plus 0.1, which is going to be 121 this time. And at the end of the third year, the new amount or the final amount is equal to 121 times 1 plus 0.1. So each time the interest is being calculated on a new amount, it's 100 to begin with. The final amount at the end of the first year becomes the initial amount for the beginning of the second year. And the final amount for the second year becomes the initial amount for the third year, and so on. So this is going to be equal 133.1 Rand. Now if you compare this and this is the final amount of the future amount under simple interest. The same rate of interest, the same initial investment, the same time period. And this is the amount for the compound interest. This is always going to be more after the first year. Because after the first year, the interest is calculated on the initial amount as well as on the interest. Let's try and get that in one single step. The amount after a certain number of years, we are going to keep that open. We are going to say that n number of years is going to be the initial amount, call that P, times 1 plus I over 100 is the amount at the end of the first period. Now all of this becomes the initial amount for the second year. So therefore, to find the amount at the end of the second year, this must be multiplied again with 1 plus I over 100. That's for 2 years. And this becomes the amount at the end of the second year. That becomes the initial amount for the third year, which needs to be multiplied with 1 plus I over 100 again. And you keep doing that n number of times. Therefore, the generalized formula for the amount is equal to the initial amount times 1 plus I over 100 if I is given as a percentage raised to the nth power, because we are going to have 1 plus 1 over 100 n number of times in the multiplication sentence. Let's try and solve this problem. Find the future amount when 1200 Rand is invested for 4 years at a compound interest rate of 3.5% per annum. Also find the interest earned from the above investment. Let me write down the compound interest formula. The future amount or the final amount is given as the initial amount invested times 1 plus the rate of interest expressed as a decimal. This is as a percentage, therefore we want to divide that with 100 raised to the n, where n is the number of years. Find the future amount. So we need to find this given 1200 Rand is invested, which means this is 1200. The rate of interest as a percentage is 3.5, so this is 3.5. And n, the number of years, is 4 years, so this is 4. Let's plug in the numbers. So we have the amount is equal to 1200 times 1 plus 3.5 over 100 raised to the 4th power. Now you can simplify this. This is equal to 1200 times 1 plus 3.5 over 100 is going to be 0.035 raised to the 4th power. So that's 1200 times 1.035 raised to the 4th power, which is equal to 1200 times 1.148. That's rounded up to the 3rd place after the decimal point. That many number of Rand. And that's equal to 1377.6 Rand. And now there's a second part to the question that wants us to find the interest earned. Now the interest is nothing but the future amount minus the initial amount invested. The extra amount that you earn is the interest, right? So this is going to be equal to this 1377.6 minus the amount invested was 1200. That many number of Rand. So this is going to be equal to 177.6 Rand.